Tonight on The Breakdown, the AB's dominated Wales and Cardiff. We discuss the selection dilemmas going forward and we sit down with the latest 100th Test All Black, Beauden Barrett. And Italian coach Kieran Crowley zooms in before this weekend's game against the ABs. Kia ora koutou katoa, hello and welcome to The Breakdown. Yes, another week has rolled around. There's always something to talk about. Big performance from the All Blacks. Frustrating morning for the Black Ferns, and I'll do my very best to explain to you what's happening at the NPC at the end of the show. So John Kerwin, I'm Jeff Wilson. This is Mills Muliaina, and it is Movember. I got a pinch and a punch for the first in the month for my two kids. Mills, you're our representative in Movember, and obviously you have started. Look at you. Well, have you started? That's the big question.
I had a great shave this morning, so I thought it's a great cause, actually. I mean, to recognise the fact, men's health, and obviously being a father of three boys, men's health, and also suicide prevention, getting right into it. So I've started.
You've got to keep zooming in. You've got to keep going. Well, this will be a weekly occurrence. We'll see how much better. JK, are we just moral support for Mills?
Well, if I was in Movember, I would have had to start last November to grow anything. How do we donate?
Oh, just go on the website, Movember website, and you search up Millsy, and you'll find me under the Halo team. So I'm under the Halo team, and everything will be appreciated, I'm sure. Just remember, it is for the Mo and not the Fro.
Okay.
The Mo, not the Fro.
Not the Fro. There are so many possibilities. Our graphics department, the moment they heard, have got busy. Here we go. The Hulk Hogan look-alike.
Oh, nice, I like that one.
Love it.
Yeah, and oh dear. Oh, here we go.
I couldn't get to that stage.
You couldn't pull that off, could you?
Nah,
you couldn't pull that off. Right, and next. Hey, what are you contemplating there? What are you contemplating there?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
That's outstanding. We will see the progress, but please donate. It is a fantastic, fantastic cause. There's plenty of promise there, and we can say there's more than promise with the All Blacks. The performance on the weekend at Cardiff in front of 70,000 plus was impressive. It was dominant. JK, Sir John Kerwin, you look at this for the All Blacks. They've come to this part of their tour. Was this the perfect start to the end of year in the Northern Hemisphere, and how much better can it get?
Well, I think we'll get a gauge of what Northern Hemisphere strength's like probably later on. But I think it's probably the most complete performance all year. From a kicking game was good. They went to a pick and go as a tactical thing. Forwards did the hard yards. Backs attacked well. So I think it was pretty complete, Mills. I enjoyed it. Some people said, oh, it wasn't a great game. I thought it was a really good game of rugby because actually, you've got to take your hat off to Wales. They also have a go if they can, so it's always positive.
I was like you. I absolutely enjoyed the Test match. I thought it was a really good balance in terms of, obviously, happy with the score, but balance in terms of the way they played. They adapted really well. It was pretty tight at the start, but that adaptation was really the big part, and then everyone sort of played their part. So it was set up really nice. It was orchestrated really nice by the captain as well. I thought, White an outstanding game in terms of his decision making, and then the bench cam finished off a really nice effort. So really good start to the Northern Hemisphere tour, and I really enjoyed that test.
So they get some momentum, JK. All of a sudden, we'll talk a little bit about selection later on, but was there some changes and some subtleties to their game? Did they do some different things that we maybe hadn't seen for the first 10, 11 test matches of this year?
Well, I think that variation, so I don't think they were predictable. Like, you didn't see as much as, Sam Whitelock, for example. How often did you see him standing off the 9 and carrying it hard? Probably a couple of times. And I liked that they actually did the pick and go, because I think in Europe, you've got to try and get the defences to come in, Mills. You got to draw them in. If you just keep getting it, they'll get up and bash you, like we saw in the World Cup. So I just like the variation. Good kicking game, kick passes, picks and goes. And I think that variation of game plan, when you're talking about the All Blacks, is hard to stop.
Yeah, they went wide, from the halfback initially quite early, just to try and suck them in. And I think that's what you're talking about, JK, the variation. They went off halfback with the forwards. They didn't get much momentum then. Then they just went with the pick and goes. And then the subtlety of the pick and go, just a little wee offloads, and also the clean-out work. Being able to clear that space so that it opens up a little bit of space for their runners. I enjoyed that. Yeah, OK, they probably weren't tested in terms of, if you looked at where South Africa tested in the line-outs, but they didn't need to, because they varied that up as well. They varied up where they went to the back, and they gained gain confidence and momentum, through those actions, which I was really pleased to see.
There was a few things that Coach Ian Foster talked about after the game. One of those was obviously the performance in his 100th test of Beauden Barrett. Adi Savia was really, really strong. But in terms of their defence, it was strong, it was accurate, their discipline very, very good. Didn't give the opposition too many opportunities to get their game going. I am going to talk about, though, one of the key talking points out of this match, and it was the yellow card that Nepo Laulala received for what I perceive, JK, as having done nothing wrong when a player presents himself in a position where he leads with his head.
I have my Sharpie. Like, look at that. So just remember, I've got my Sharpie, right? So here I go. I took school CR. So look at that body position right there. And this is what I want to talk about. This is what I want the World Rugby to do. So if you look at the footage you just saw, if your body height is like that when you're tackling, you're going to hit someone here or above. If your body shape is like that, okay, you're in no wrong. Now, this is real school art here. That's actually from behind. So that's Nepo Laulala's shorts and his head. Now, if you look from behind, and hopefully we'll show some footage, if you look from behind and you just see his pants and his head, then what's happening is he is in the right. Look at that, right? You can't even see his number. You can't. That is perfect technique, right? That is perfect technique. So when you go, what I'm saying to World Rugby is look from behind. Nepo's arm is even down. It's not even up. And so for me, that was perfect technique from the tackler, and the player is led with his head. Now, I don't think you can send someone off for that. That is perfect technique.
But all of a sudden the reaction to was the fact it could possibly be a red card. They're saying, well, it's a direct contact to the head. Mato Ranal, the referee, I thought, who was outstanding on the weekend, almost got convinced by his supporting crew the fact that, well, no, there's enough here for a yellow card to be presented, Mills. But in the end, does the ball carrier not have a responsibility? And if they do choose to put themselves in a position where they can be contacted through no fault of the defenders, surely if your tackle technique is sound, like Sir John Koeman's talking about, there's no way you should be penalised for it.
Yeah, well, I think there are aspects of that the ball carrier must, obviously have a responsibility to be able to make sure his head's in the right place, but they're going for a certain gap. I think the big responsibility has to come back on, the guys upstairs. When they're actually viewing that, having a process like JK sort of mentioned to say, okay, these are the mitigating factors. Because if he went any lower, Nepo Laulala would actually be possibly hitting the grass. In this aspect here too, Blackadder's made an impact. He's actually made an impact too. So how is he going to, wrap his arms as well? Nepo's gone down, as I said, any lower, and he's actually heading towards landing a plane, like they wouldn't as you're sort of going for the ball.
So for me, that is absolute perfect technique, and you should look at it from an angle point of view and say the tacklers are fine. The trouble I had on the weekend was the ref was really good, and then the touch judge came in, and if you were listening, you heard the TMO come in, and I'm going, the guy made a great decision. The referee said, no mitigating factors. He dropped his head. Play on. Oh, no, let's go back and have a look at it. It was a great decision. And when you look at it like that, they are just looking for stuff there that is completely, I believe, wrong.
And that's what they've got the opportunity upstairs to have a look at that and say, okay, this is it. The referee, he's actually looking at it from from far enough away to actually try and make that decision. He's got the feel of the game, and that's what you want. You don't want to lose that aspect. But when you're coming in at certain things, not even actually realising the complicity of it, and then it has a massive implication on everything else.
Well, to me, I mean, I look at this as well, and that's not the example I want to see ball carriers doing. The fact that you're bailing out and putting your head down. And I saw an example of this. I was working on a game earlier in the season between Canterbury and Otago, and Henry Stowers is the ball carrier here. And just watch here, 100 miles an hour going down, going to ground. Now, unfortunate contact, and I'm grateful that he was able to stand up after this contact and walk off the field. But it's this here where the same two guys putting himself in a position to try and get into a position of contact. Gratefully, he walks off, and I'm hopeful that he is recovering well. But I think we're so often looking at the tackler, but the ball carrier is quite often responsible for the contact.
But we have the technology, and I know this is not technology. This is not technology.
It's understandable,
But
though.
if you look at the angles, it is. So when you look from behind with Nepo Laulala, his angle is this. You cannot get any lower. And so what I'm saying is if you're a TMO and you look from behind and he has that angle, then there's no mitigating factors. You must then look at the ball carrier, full stop. Now, if your arm's up or your body's up, remember Damien McKenzie? right? He was upright, and unfortunately, it was, you know, he didn't have an intent, but his body angle was wrong. So I just think we need to be take a little bit of the guessing out of it. And on the weekend, the referee got it right, and the two touchies and the TMO came in and confused it.
And I think this wasn't the only aspect as well. You know, there's another one with the high ball where they got penalised. You know, White's got penalised for that, and he came in and was very influential in making that decision happen. This is the TMO, so that's what's disappointing about it for me too.
I would imagine, and I wouldn't be surprised if we hear from World Rugby over the next few days, particularly talking about this scenario in a game and what responsibility the ball carrier does have. Talking about ball carriers, he was one of the very best on the weekend. He's been one of the best every time he stepped into the All Black jersey. It's Will Jordan.
Through the hands to Jordan, the chip kick ahead now, the searing pace of Will Jordan. Jordan, he keeps racking them up, this kid. And they bring Jordan in from the wing, little dummy, he's in again.
This time it's Jordan, just on his own side of halfway. Been really good, Will Jordan. Now he tries to do it himself. If it sits up, it does. Absolutely brilliant.
Yes, the life of an All Black. Washington, Cardiff, and now in Rome. Will Jordan joins us on the breakdown. Thanks for joining us, Will. I'm going to start with a very difficult question. Being an All Black sometimes is difficult. It is challenging. You missed an opportunity to play against the Springboks in the second test in the Rugby Championship. How did you respond from that, and what has happened over these last two test matches for you in terms of your performance?
Yeah, I think looking back to the end of the Rugby Championship, I guess myself and probably Foz as well was a bit disappointed with how I played in that first test. So as a result of that, sort of missed out on the second test there, and I guess had a good opportunity over the last 3 or 4 weeks, with a bit of a break after that championship, to go on and work on a few things in my game. And yeah, I was able to get an opportunity against the US and Wales over the last couple of weeks, and just trying to keep building on those things I was working on and things I was doing well as well.
Well, mate, as Earl Curtin would say, you've got gas. But what did you actually do?
He doesn't know who Earl Curtin is, do you?
Sorry. Great man. Great man. But what did you do the hundy in, mate, when because obviously you've got a lot of speed and you're using it to your advantage. Did you do sprinting and stuff when you're growing up?
Not really, to be fair. I think I was sort of more in my summers playing cricket and that, and I think these days your sprint testing is more probably over sort of 10 metres or 40 metres for in the rugby environment. So I haven't actually done a sort of full 100 for probably 4 or 5 years. So not too sure I'll be clocking in at, unfortunately.
Oh, speculate. Come on, give us a number. What do you reckon? Just sub 11? Is that what you're thinking?
Oh, sub 10? Nah. Honestly, not sure. Like I say, I haven't really done one for a while. Yeah, I know it's something that I'd be keen to do one at some point just to see what it would be. But yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you.
Well, I'm interested to know, I know obviously on the field you're absolutely amazing, but off the field, this is a different experience for you, being on tour, being in Cardiff, obviously getting the bus to the stadium and at crawling rates, with the horses in front of you, and also being at the stadium in front of 70-odd thousand people. I mean, how have you found that experience, and has it sort of aided in terms of the excitement that you want to be back out there week in, week out in the starting 15?
Yeah, I think definitely it was a pretty special night on Saturday in Cardiff, just experiencing that sort of Northern Hemisphere atmosphere for the first time. Like you say, the horses, down to the ground, and just a huge number of people down there supporting their team, and just how vocal they can be. So certainly when I ran out for the warm-up on Saturday, I thought it was going to be a pretty special night, and it definitely proved to be so, just with all the Welsh singing and the chanting and whatnot. So definitely after getting a taste of that, it does spur you on to want to be in that team every week and be out on the pitch experiencing it.
For the viewers at home, a turtle is not your abs, although ours is actually rolled over. Our turtle's rolled over. The turtle that you have to use, Will, is the high ball stuff. It's been exceptional for you lately. I know there was a couple of knock-ons the other day, but your competitiveness in the air is incredible. You've been doing a lot of work on the turtle, and is that something that, Fozzie wanted you to work on?
Yeah, I guess starting with that South African series, the back three started getting peppered with high balls pretty regularly, and we sort of knew coming up here that was going to be the case again. So the back three have been getting together and getting plenty of reps on the turtle, like you say. And I think for myself, like you say, it's just a real competitive mindset in the air. Like, you're probably not going to catch all of them, but trying to get as many as you can and just going up there, competing, trying to create a collision and win as many backs, probably the mindset. And it was frustrating to have those couple in the first half sort of slip away, but then a couple were stuck in the second half, which was nice as well.
Well, Mills talked about this being on the road and being on tour and all those environments, but it appears as though this group in particular is really enjoying their football. We've all been in situations where all of a sudden you can gather momentum. And yes, you've been away from home for a long time, but has this group got tighter and tighter, and is there a real element of fun in this group?
Yeah, I think so. I think, there's been a lot of chat around how long we've been away for, but I think on field we're starting to see some really positive results from that, just being in and around each other every day. Those connections continue to grow, and little conversations that you can have just from being around each other, go a long way towards building that synergy on the field. And I think we saw that on the weekend, particularly in that last 10 minutes. There was some pretty special support play and some great tries that were scored, and I think that's just a byproduct of that. I guess just as a whole, there's been a chat around this being a tour like no other, and I think the boys have done a great job of just embracing that and really enjoying one's company. There's been plenty of hotel time in amongst it, so whether it's playing cards or little games like that, it does continue to grow that team chemistry.
Just lastly from me, as a group, obviously you get opportunities, but you're operating in a bubble right now. But will there still be a chance to catch some of the local landmarks in Rome? If there is a chance, what would you go and see first?
Yeah, there's been sort of limited opportunities to get out and about. We saw some great things in Washington, and I'm not sure what the plans are for this week, but hopefully there'll be a bit of a bus tour or something organised around the landmarks. It's my first time in Rome, so I think the Colosseum is probably one that's on everyone's list. So I know a few of the younger boys have been keen to get in behind Doc and see if we can organise a wee trip there.
Mate, look, you're talking 16 tries, 11 test matches. You're in great form. The team's playing outstanding rugby. It was a pleasure to watch in Cardiff. Thanks for joining us on The Breakdown. Have a great day, have a great week, and we look forward to seeing you. Maybe in action on the weekend. You might get a weekend off, but if you do, you've thoroughly deserved it. Thanks for joining us on The Breakdown.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Well, to find the best player of the weekend, Housespan Elite Performer of the Match, as voted by the fans, he wasn't even one of the three, and he was outstanding. Beauden Barrett, Ardie Savea and Dalton Papali'i. Beauden Barrett comprehensively winning with 70% of the vote. Ardie Savea, though, is in this conversation every single time we put it up. And if I look at this competition we've got in terms of positions, but the first 5 position has been everlasting on this show. It will be everlasting as long as Beauden Barrett and Richie Mo'unga are playing together. But Beauden was very good on the weekend, Mills. This conversation and this debate we keep having, is it getting more and more tilted towards this man?
Well, after the performance he had in the weekend, I think so. Last week I thought he was actually still a wee way away from his absolute best. This is glimpses of him being, the best player in the world, and it was a magical performance in terms of what he did, but also being back in control of the guys and how they sort of, managed their play.
JK, I want to ask you this question. For so long, under the Steve Hansen regime, you talked about the fact that players didn't lose through injury or opportunity. They didn't lose their spot. Is this different with this group, with the fact, if you play well and continue to play well, because Richie Mo'unga, while waiting for obviously the latest addition to his family, he wasn't in Australia. Does that all of a sudden mean that they've changed philosophy within the All Blacks?
I think you still get back in, but I don't think you get straight into the test side. You've got to earn that back. I think the other intriguing thing for me is I believe there might have been best 15 on the field, and so you play Mo'unga and Barrett, right? And who's going to play fullback? I think what this selection committee seems to be doing is competing in that position, and I think it's bringing the best out in both those players. The hardest thing, Mills, and this is probably a question for you, Will Jordan probably gets selected because of his form against the United States, but Mo'unga went pretty well. So Mo'unga's going to be out this weekend, but does playing form against Italy count to put him in contention, or are we looking for them to share up the last two?
Oh, it's such a tough one, isn't it? Because Mo'unga had the momentum going into the championship, right? Those 2 Australian games, he played magnificent. He controlled everything well, and he stayed back to have his child. On the other side, Beauden got those opportunities. That's 5 games in a row. So those 5 games really allowed him to get himself right, to then to hammer that, and so it really came down to what Ian Foster was going to decide, and he obviously thought Beauden Barrett warranted that. But I think what we've seen is that he hasn't picked a team where Beauden Barrett's been at fullback and Mo'unga's been at 10 and vice versa. He's actually chosen on who's going to be the first 10, and I think that creates real stability within the team, and that's what he's starting to get now with the momentum around the rest of the group.
I'm not convinced, JK, they've got a plan already going into France. I think they're waiting and seeing what happens over the next couple of weeks. They'll look at the guys and how they are physically, how they are mentally. But I think the inside running is there for a number of players, the likes of the performances of Ardie Savea at number 8, Dalton Papali'i at open side flanker, someone I know you're big on. Where does that leave the likes of Sam Cane and Dane Coles right now for the rest of this tour? Is it about playing a support role, playing against Italy, and do they have to wait for their next opportunity to start in a test match?
Well, I want to just throw a question to you. I'll answer the question you asked me, but I want to talk about Geordie Barrett, whether his long kicking game has actually made an influence about making sure he's at fullback. But to answer this, I actually think it's about balance, right? So I think that Dalton Papali'i and Blackadder on the weekend, they do the hard graft. Now, Sam Cane's going to do the hard graft, we know that, but that frees up Ardie Savea to play a bit looser, which I think is his best game. So where does that put, where does that put Ioane? Where does that put
Jacobson?
Where does it put those guys? And I think we have gone through centuries of talking about midfield combination, Mills, but also about the balance in your loose forwards. So, like I said before, I don't know if it's going to be the best 15 on the field anymore. It's going to be the best combination. So is that Blackadder. But then, for me, coming back to the Geordie question, Geordie being able to smack one over from 55 yards, does that mean, and he's playing well tactical from a kicking point of view, do you say, well, actually, we need that in to put pressure, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, on giving away penalties?
Yeah, absolutely. But he's also cemented his role back there at fullback, his long kicking game in terms of the goal kicking, but also his strength at carrying the ball back. We've seen what he done in the weekend, but also his defensive effort. So I think he's cemented that and cemented his role as a fullback. To go back to your point about the loosies, it is about balance. You've got those guys you've just spoken about, but that isn't just about Blackadder being really good at something, being really good at being hard, or Papali'i just being really good at being over the ball, and Ardie Savea being really good at the back. They've all got a balance of that. They've got a really nice balance, albeit one of each of them has got a better balance than others, be it running the ball or over the ball, where Papali'i's a lot better than the others. That's where it's going to come down to, and that's what's really working really nicely, the overall balance of their game, and it mixes really well. In terms of Sam Cane and that coming back, this tour for them is about them coming back. I don't think you're going to get them playing in the big matches. It's about him being able to get himself right, get up to the level where his leadership is probably more important off the field than what it is on the field. So I'm not anticipating him to actually stake a claim for a starting position. It's more about him for the future, next year when he rolls back out. And also Dane Coles, those sort of types. But we need their experience off the field.
Wholesale changes is what I expect for this weekend against Italy. It's bringing some guys back. It's giving the likes of a Josh Lord another opportunity in the All Black to develop. Maybe welcome back a Shannon Frizzell. A number of guys who are returning from injury. I think at the moment they're starting to settle on the guys they want for the big games. Well, it was a massive game in Cardiff and he couldn't be any better. He was the man of the match and we celebrated 100 tests for Beauden Barrett.
As a kid, I only ever dreamed of playing for Taranaki because that's what Dad did. Potentially the Hurricanes because that's what he did. Yeah, we kicked the ball around and pretended being Andrew Murdens, Christian Cullen.
Intercept, Beauden Barrett, 100 test matches.
To play one for my country was an immensely proud moment, but to play 100's just unthinkable.
Looks like the crowd are going to get their wish. They're going to love this. Have a listen. Beauden Barrett gets an early look at Test rugby.
Oh, he was a raw, young Taranaki boy, learning to become a professional rugby player, living his dream.
Barrett leading the charge. Barrett!
Just travelling the world playing footy.
Here's Barrett. Barrett! Beauden Barrett! What a try! There's the championship!
Because I was never the biggest, strongest, fastest coming through school, I was always encouraged to work on my skills a lot.
Enjoy! You gotta be kidding!
Passing off both hands, kicking off both feet.
Barrett's got a heap of speed. We all know that. He'll win the race. Beauden Barrett!
And especially fitness, so running all the time.
Oh, what a wonderful try!
And I think that held me in good stead.
Saw a gap. Off he goes. Now can he link up? He's back to his own pace. Oh, gee whiz. That is magic.
It wasn't until I made the Hurricanes where I really believed that I could make the All Blacks.
Oh, it's been grabbed by Beauden Barrett. Way too much pace.
So it took a lot of self-confidence and self-belief to pursue those tentative years.
Oh, Beauden Barrett! Goodness
To take those opportunities and really make some tough decisions and sacrifices around that period of my life.
Out of absolutely nothing.
For a lot of young players, it can go one way or another. They go off to university, they fall out of love of the game because they may have missed out on a rep team in their final year at secondary school, but I never made the top teams at school, I just stuck to it.
Here he is, Beauden Barrett, and he gets 4, and that's a record.
Oh, record breaker, Beauden Barrett.
To bring up 100, there's a mixture of feelings. Instantly, it makes me feel old and, I guess, experienced, but a lot of great memories. It's just flowing by. It seems just like yesterday when I played my first.
When you look back at your career, Baz, what makes you the most proud?
Probably sharing the field with my brothers. I never take that for granted. I just think of those days, kicking the ball around the paddock, Pongatehi Primary School. We just did it because we enjoyed it, and that's what most young kids did growing up. We enjoyed the game for the right reasons, and to be sharing these moments in the black jersey, it's the pinnacle.
So here come the Black Ferns. 80 minutes for a race to the top of the world rankings. That's as simple as it gets. Cox edge there. Dement finds Ali again. She decides to put boot to ball. It's gathered by Bremner. Bremner's still going. The Black Ferns score. Tight once again. That's surely going. Touchdown. Kildone. Aitchison. Oh, she's going through one. Holly Aitchison on her debut. Trying to ship it out. That's a mistake for Ramsey. He goes down. No one at home for the Black Ferns. Big pass out to Holmes. Managed to be gathered in the air. Passed out to Flula. Recycled quickly. Still going. Popped a ball and scores. England win to ruin the Black Ferns 100th Test party. It's finished. England 43, New Zealand 12.
My hooky, welcome back to the breakdown. It's time to get some insight into the Black Ferns and World Rugby Hall of Famer in 2021 and inductee, former Black Fern Huriana Manuel-Carpenter joins us. And Huriana, did this morning's result, did it surprise you? Because it certainly surprised me.
Yeah, a tough day at the office for the Black Ferns. Obviously, it was their 100th Test game. It was always going to be a challenging one for them, not having a Test match in 2 years, and obviously some disruption in the Wharapara Cup in particular for the Auckland players. So, yeah, without any rugby leading up to this game, it was, a pretty tough ask for the girls this morning.
But in the second half, I was a little bit concerned about the defence. It looked like when the English got, round the corner fast and then they came back the other way, we looked a little bit disorganised. Is that Do you think that's fitness? Is that missing the intensity of Test match, or a combination?
I think a combination of both. Like I spoke about earlier, they haven't had any Test matches in 2 years, and that comes with game fits. So yeah, England brought it to them. Physically dominated the Black Ferns, in the set piece in particular, the lineouts and in defence there. They, found some space out wide a lot of the times actually, and the Black Ferns were caught ball watching close, and England were able to capitalise that, with the big score to England.
Huriana, I want to ask then, they haven't played for 2 years. It's the Rugby World Cup next year. I know they're starting, the Super Rugby competition for them, but no Test matches. Is it panic stations, considering, they've been away from Test match rugby for this long? It's not very far away from the Rugby World Cup. Do you think there'll be panic in the management right now in terms of where they're at?
Yeah, I mean, they've got 3 more games left of this championship. So they've got another game against England and 2 more against France. So that would be a good one. But I think what the coaches will be looking at is obviously the big World Cup next year in New Zealand. And the main goal, I guess, is to get some Test matches under their belt before the next Rugby World Cup. And of course we love to win everything, but it's about building towards next year for the Black Ferns.
So they obviously gave a number of players their opportunity, and it's difficult for debutants to go into that situation. But when you look at that group, is there enough experience to turn it around in 7 days? What would your expectation be? What would you like to see? It may not necessarily be a win, but are there certain areas you go, you know what, that's good enough for me to know that they are making improvements?
Yeah, it was awesome to see a lot of the debutants get a game. There was 4 in the starting lineup, and I think there was 6 or 7 on the bench there. I think it's giving them game time, but I would have loved to see, the likes of Carla Hohepa and the Kelly Brazier, the Portia Woodmans, but we don't know if they're injured. But I'd like to see them in the next game, put some experience in there, and you've got to test combinations and experience as well. So I think moving forward, just having those experienced girls around the girls that are new to the environment would help moving forward.
So moving forward, what would success look like in this next few weeks? I'm not actually that worried about them winning or losing, but the differential is probably a bit big. Would you expect us to be making huge advances, or is that, that fitness and lack of test experience and, test time, is that going to really cost us? Yeah,
like I said, it's pretty hard. A tough ask for the Black Ferns. They haven't had Test match in 2 years, and for them to go over there and play England, who have come off the back of 6 Nations. They've actually played 14 Test matches before this game. So that is a tough ask, but I think for the girls is just to get some more Test matches under their belt, trial out combinations, but we need to get it right. And I know they'll be tough on themselves, the Black Ferns, and they'll want to come back and and prove that they've got it. And it starts off with the forwards. They need to match those big physical forwards of the English team, and we need to sort out our set piece and our defence.
Sounds simple to me. Well, I think we've just got to keep the faith, Huriana. That's all we've got to do is keep the faith, right?
Yeah,
we've got to trust. They know what they're doing. They're going to get there. Thank you so much for joining us on The Breakdown. I have no doubts that they will respond and talk about and deal with the things you've talked about. Thanks very much.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome. Great. I think we'll do. We've just got to keep the faith. Look, this is one Test match. It's been 2 years. Don't want to overact. I don't think there will be panic. I think Glenn Moore's been there and done that and understands that he gave people an opportunity. There are a number of players, which Huriana were talking about, who were a little bit banged up, who weren't quite ready, who may be ready for this week.
Yeah, well, I mean, I looked at it and I didn't think the scoreline, Mills, actually reflected the gap in the game. There was a couple of silly tries. you know, an intercept. And I thought we looked really good, especially in the second half. So, yeah, I'm not panicking yet.
Probably reflected the fact that they're away from Test match rugby, you know, for a very long time. But so what does that bring up? I think we need a competition over here similar to all the Six Nations that the Women's have got over there. That builds competition in terms and gives us Test matches as well.
Let's be talking about them in 7 days and let's give them a benefit of time because they're going to need some of that. And we need some time to contemplate our trivia question. And it's you, JK, who's going to invite our guest tonight because it's Italy this weekend.
Yeah, and we have the lovely Marletta who is going to give us an Italian trivia question. And please ask me in Italian so these guys don't understand. So at least I've got a chance. So, ciao Marletta.
Buonasera, my name is Melita. I have a question for the boys. Who was the first Kiwi to play for the Azzurri?
Yeah, he was so confident before the show when he gave him the responsibilities. He was like, I should get this. I'm all over it. I have no doubts. Mills has got, I mean, he's not sure either.
Got a couple.
I don't know. All right, we've got time. We're gonna give ourselves a little bit of extra time. Actually, let's go to Chelsea Alley on tour with the Black Ferns in the UK.
It is an exciting day here in Black Ferns. We are on a bus trip and we're about to pull into Stonehenge. Oh, look at it. It's right there. Excited, TK?
Yes, really excited. We're heading to the Stonehenge whānau.
Woo! Private bus.
Private bus.
Here's a little behind the scenes of the Black Ferns at Stonehenge. What we do is we have mini groups, so we've got 4 mini teams within our big team, and quite often we get together in those mini teams and we connect, and just allows us to open up to each other, feel really connected to the team. Obviously we don't have our friends and whānau over here, so my mini team's calling me for a photo. Cheese! Hey, Stonehenge! So here we are, folks. One of the wonders of the world, Stonehenge. It's a bunch of rocks, but it feels pretty majestical here. It feels pretty sacred, and I'm very grateful to be here with the Black Ferns. Get up. We got one last pun to finish us off here.
Why am I here? Just because. Let's make a bold move and rock out.
Thanks for following our journey at Stonehenge. It was awesome to have a bit of fun with the crew before we start preparing for our tests tomorrow. Good to get out and about. Back to you guys.
Welcome back to the breakdown. The All Blacks are playing Italy this weekend in Rome. Melita asked us before the break who was the first Kiwi to represent the Azzurro. So John Kerwin was incredibly confident because he should have picked the first one, but he's not sure. So please speculate.
Aaron Persico.
Aaron Persico. And did he steal it off you?
No.
Who do you think it was?
I was going to say Kane Williams, but I think I was going to Scott Palmer.
You've been very under your breath.
He's your year, isn't he, Scott Palmer? It's not him.
It's not Scott Palmer? I thought it was going to be Scott Palmer. That was the guess I had. We don't know. Should we find out from Melita?
Have you got no... You were going to say...
I have no... Honestly, I have no idea.
I was going to say Matt Phillips as well. But...
Oh, Matt Phillips as well. You get multiple...
Well, you can have that.
Oh, I have Matt Phillips. I'll take Matt Phillips then. Let's see who it is.
Yes, it was Aaron Persico, and he competed for the Azzurri in 2000 during the Six Nations against France, and he was called up by another Kiwi, Brad Johnston, at the time, who was the head coach of the Azzurri. Ciao.
Shot Goldie, well done.
Sense of relief from you then.
There was.
Sense of relief. Brad Johnston doing the job.
Because they changed the rules. We weren't allowed to pick foreigners. And the last year of Brad and my first year, we're allowed to go from... We're only allowed 3. We're allowed to go to 5.
Well, it's Italy's big opportunity now to take on the All Blacks once again. It is in Rome, and Kieran Crowley, who's been coaching in Italy, coaching Benetton for a number of years now. He's taken the reins in 2021. He joins us now. Kieran, thank you so much for joining us on the breakdown. Are you closer, do you think, to the top-tier teams? What's the plan? Have you got a plan for taking on the All Blacks?
Oh, look, yeah, I mean, they're playing well, aren't they? You know, I've just come in. You know, this is our first game, so it's a pretty good sort of game to get first up. You know, we've had 10 days preparation, I think. So, you know, we're going up against the world's #1 team which has been playing together for the last 4 months. So, I mean, it's what's our plan? Well, we're sorting that out at the moment. So, there's a bit of a focus on defence.
Colty, you did an amazing job with Benetton winning the Pro 12 last year. I watched that final. The improvement in that level of rugby has not really translated into, you know, the top side. You've also got the under-20 side that's playing really well. I mean, are you looking to start over again and select younger guys? How are you going to find that?
Yeah, I think there's a balance to that, JK. I mean, you know, the age grade teams have done pretty well, like you said. I mean, the under-18s, under-20s consistently perform quite well. You know, they don't win the competitions here in Europe, but they are very competitive. But then that doesn't, like you say, transfer over. And one of the biggest challenges around that is just the pathway, I think. And going forward, you know, Italy have some challenges around their identification after under-20s, I think. And, you know, with only two pro teams, it's a massive difference. You know, like, for example, you've got Benetton and Zebre are the pro teams here. Well, both teams' numbers 15s are foreign players. So, you know, there's no Italian playing 15 here in Italy. And it's the same in, you know, in other positions as foreigners come in and take those positions. So the Italian boys are not getting the exposure they need in certain positions. And to answer your question, yes, there will be some young boys going forward, but we've got to keep the experience because you can't chuck them all in there at once. So it's going to be a balancing act over the next year. And I hope at the end of the Six Nations going into the summer tour, you know, we've developed a style that we can take forward into the World Cup next year or 2 years' time.
You mentioned Zebre. My time at Zebre, they're wonderful people, great people there as well. But in my experience, they're sort of really big fans of the All Blacks in terms of, you know, when they see them on screen, similar to possibly when if the All Whites played an Italian soccer team. Do you touch on the fact that they are just human? Because I was sort of, you know, taken back the fact that these guys just put them up on a pedestal. Is it something that you touch on with this Italian teams, that they're just human?
Yeah, they are, and I mean, you know, it's you got to take the All Black moniker out of it. You know, it's just New Zealand. You know, it's just another country against another country, and yes, they play well, but yeah, you know, what we've got to get from these Italian boys is they've got to get some self-belief. I find that coaching over here is they really focus on the negative aspects of play. You know, we've got to give these boys a bit of confidence, and sure, you know, we're you know, up against one hell of a challenge on the weekend, but I would hope that, you know, our performance that we put out on the paddock will give us a little bit of credibility and respect around the place, and that's what, you know, that's the only way we can measure ourselves moving forward at the moment, I think, because, you know, our record's not great, and we've got to try and change that.
Kieran, is there a particular strength? You know, you talk about every team's got something they can go to or they call on. Is there a particular strength of the Italian game that you want to build your game around going forward?
Oh, I mean, you know, years ago, you know, when JK was here, I mean, you know, he must have stuffed up a fair few things, I think, because, you know, the scrummaging was, you know, their big forte. You know, they were really strong scrummagers, and they used to, you know, the forward pack was the go-to. But, you know, that's changed over the last little bit, particularly as professionalism's developed. I think, you know, you know, other countries have gone way past them in the way that they train and that sort of thing. So to answer your question, we've got to find that. We've got to be innovative. You know, I mean, Italians are great. I mean, you ask them to run through a brick wall, they'll run through a brick wall for you. It's just we've got to get them to be a little bit smarter at it, and hopefully over the next sort of year we find that go-to that we can go to. You know, there's some really good young players coming through. As you know, there's a really good 10, etc. So, you know, we've got to develop support around those boys and look for them to lead us going forward.
Now, Colty, you weren't the best roommate in the world because I was from the city and you're a farmer and used to wake up at milking time. But now you're actually my tenant in Italy. You're living in my house. Have you done the lawns?
The lawns, it's just for those that don't know, JK's got a rugby post and soccer post on his front lawn, and it's about, you could probably graze 4 or 5 cows there the whole year. And he's left me a push mower to mow his lawns. So to answer your question, JK, they're about a quarter done.
You'd expect them with those on the ground, he'd be better at goal kicking. Any sort, if you had that at home. Surely. Kieran, I've got to thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best. We look forward to seeing what you can do with the Azura, because we see the passion, we see the fact that they can be competitive. You've seen what Argentina have done in recent times, how they've elevated their game. Good luck and play well on the weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Thanks very much.
He's got a meeting. He's off and gone. He's off and gone. He's got a meeting to go to. He's off to do the lawns. He's off to do the lawns. That's outstanding. I think he ditched the meeting to come and talk to us. How good is that? Yeah. Is he the right person taking that team forward, JK?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I mean, you look at Canada now, right? When he had Canada, they're incredibly competitive, right? He went to Treviso. And I see him all the time. I mean, the back three's over there. There's Craig Green, Colty and I, so we have a bit of a laugh. It's good fun. But he's done a great job with Benetton. They beat the Bulls last year in the final. He's done an incredible job. And, you know, he will get this team to the best that they can be, and they need consistency. I always said that the Italian job is actually a 5-year job. You need to leave someone there and let them build the team. And if he's got some young guys coming through, not this week, but he needs to take that risk. One of the greatest things I ever did was I took all those 21s guys and just threw them out there. Yeah. It was less pressure. You know, we came down here to New Zealand. I played Parisi at 18, and that's what you've got to do over there. And then you've got to get in the car and go looking for players. They'll be scattered around because, like, you've only got 2 professional sides. So he's up against them. He'll do a great job. He's a great coach. He'll be fine.
He's pinpointed some great stuff. I mean, you've already mentioned, you know, off screen about how you did focus on those scrums, so he's right about that.
You ex-scrum training, eh?
I loved it. But
you
also,
we're not doing that.
Also, he's right about that negative side. That's what I found as well. Like, the coaches would be yelling at you like big time when you're training on the coach. I didn't understand a word that he was saying, but they were absolutely negative in terms of the way they spoke to these guys. So they've got to find that belief. They've got to find that belief against a team that's, you know, it's running rampant last week, didn't they?
I've got to find some belief right now, because what I'm going to try and do is explain to you what the last weekend of this year's NPC means. So here are the points table as it stands right now. Here's the premiership. I know Hawke's Bay are in the playoffs, and I'm pretty certain Waikato are in there as well, but this is where it gets complicated. Wellington, Canterbury, Tasman and Bay of Plenty have all got the opportunity to be part of the playoffs going forward. So there's plenty to play for. Let's go and have a look at the championship. And the same scenario. Taranaki and Manawatu and Otago are safe. Southland and Northland are fighting out the last spot for the playoffs here, the semi-finals. Okay. Here's the weekend. These are the games that matter. This is what I've got to work out. Bay of Plenty play Northland. Now, that's on Wednesday night. That is a make-up game. Northland need to win that to get above Southland. Bay of Plenty, however, need to win it as well. Waikato and Otago, they're in the playoffs. Tasman and Wellington, they are competing for spots. Tasman need to win that game to give themselves the chance. Right, so what happens next? Bay of Plenty got another game. So if they win that one against Northland, they go and then take on Canterbury, and they'll just be a point or 2 between those 2 teams. Maybe even tied. The winner of that game would go on. And if Northland do beat Bay of Plenty, then Southland would need to beat Taranaki. All right, to get into the playoffs. Everyone got that? I'll tell you what, it's a big win for Southland on the weekend against...
I know, you sent me a rude text.
It wasn't rude. I informed you of the result. All I did was pick up what the score was and send it to you. Because you weren't sure that was possible, and it well and truly was possible. It was a great win for the Southland.
Think they got a chance against the Naki?
Well, they may not need one against the Naki. They might have to play them this week and then play them again in the semi-final. I'll tell you what, this is a really good game of footy. 37-33. You know, both teams played with a desperation, Mills. I mean, I was just impressed with the fact that here's 2 teams who want to be part of this playoff scenario, because it has certainly got complicated.
Oh, some great tries too. I mean, Northland going up, you know, couple of tries earlier on, and Southland to actually come back. Southland are probably in the box seat, aren't they? Because they wait until Sunday to see what they have to do. So beating Taranaki, not too sure.
Not easy for Bay of Plenty, though. They've got to go Wednesday or Saturday. Here's a team, though, the way that they play the game, they've certainly got an expansive nature. They're certainly good enough to do it, but it's going to be a tough ask.
I would have said that probably before we had those competitions 3 or 4 years ago where they played Wednesday, Sunday and everyone loved it. So I think they can do it. They're used to it. They just get out there. You don't have to train, Mills, which is always a good thing if you're a rugby player. Just play.
You see,
and you've got nothing to lose.
Is that the speech you were giving when you were coaching at Italy? Oh, no one really wants to practice.
I always said,
hold on.
This is what I always said in Italy. If we had had the after-match function the night before the game, we would have won a lot more.
Well, hold on. But how would that have gone against France?
Oh, no, they would.
They're very, very good at that, I hear. Isn't that how it works? Is that a fair call or not?
Yeah. I mean, it was an amazing time. And, you know, just the whole atmosphere in Rome, it's really special. I hope the All Blacks can get out and enjoy it. It's just an amazing place to play, you know, and it's a really, really big event. So the All Blacks going in November is really, really special.
What are you expecting out of that game?
I'm expecting wholesale changes from the All Blacks, so everyone will be changed. You'll see a brand new team. Dane Coles and Sam Cane out there. I don't know, I think Sam Cane will probably be captain. And for the Italians, I think it's going to be a long afternoon.
Yeah, I love how we've gone from Invercargill south into Rome. You know, can see the comparison.
Oh, without a doubt. Same passion.
I'm the same. I think there's going to be some wholesale changes. I think it's a great chance for the All Blacks also to make sure that they don't, you know, that they keep to that level, because this obviously for everyone this is a win for the All Blacks. Keep their standards high, and when they roll out those guys that are really confident in getting out there and staking a claim for the last two test matches.
Just quickly, who's the captain this week?
Sam Cane.
Correct, it's Sam Cane. So much for us to look forward to. Once again, every weekend, the Black Ferns are in action as well before us next weekend. But I tell you what, check us out on Thursday night once again. It's all access, behind the scenes with Black Fern, Chelsea Alley.
It's been pretty awesome to see the growth of women's rugby over the last few years.
Go inside the four walls of the Waikato captain.
He's an awesome coach. All the girls really respect him.
We both sort of keep each other honest.
From Monday,
I really enjoy it there. The boys are awesome.
To game day.
Game day is the best day of the week.
Jersey on, heels and ears on.
Hopefully New Zealand are gonna fall in love with women's rugby.
All access. Chelsea Alley. Premieres Thursday. Sky Sport 1.